He always believed there was a moment coming, not a dramatic one, no applause, no finish line tape, just a quiet internal shift, a feeling that would finally settle in and say, "You can relax now, you've done enough." That belief followed him everywhere. In the corporate world, arrival had a clear shape, numbers that moved upward, titles that sounded heavier than the ones before them, raises that arrived with polite congratulations and unspoken expectations. Every milestone came with the same promise. Once you reach this, things will feel different. So he worked toward it, carefully, responsibly. He learned the language of performance, learned how to measure himself, learned how to translate effort into outcomes other people could recognize and reward. He became reliable, competent, useful, and when he reached the goals he had been aiming for, something unexpected happened. Nothing changed. The numbers improved. The pressure didn't leave. It reorganized. Expectations followed him upward. Responsibility thickened. He woke up feeling the same. He went to sleep with the same quiet restlessness he'd always known. The sense that something essential was still unresolved didn't disappear. It simply waited. So he assumed he hadn't gone far enough. Maybe a rival lived one level higher, one promotion away, one more achievement beyond this one. He kept moving, not because he felt inspired, but because stopping felt dangerous. Because if this wasn't it, then there must be somewhere else. Later, when he stepped into the art world, the illusion didn't vanish. It just changed costumes. Arrival became freedom, recognition, the moment when the work finally paid for itself, the day when creating no longer felt like a risk, but a justification. He told himself that once the art sustained him, once it proved itself, he'd feel grounded, legitimate, at peace. But again, the same thing happened. And small wins felt good, briefly. Then they faded. Each milestone reset his expectations instead of transforming him. The same doubts returned. The same mind narrated the same questions, just in a different environment. He noticed something unsettling. People who had made it still felt anxious. Artists with audiences still felt uncertain. Executives with impressive resumes still felt restless. No one ever arrived and stayed there. They just stood where they were, with new scenery behind them. He began to notice how early this belief had been installed. Long before corporate titles or artistic ambition, the message was the same. Become something later. Do well in school so life can start after graduation. Work hard now so you can relax someday. Sacrifice the present so the future can finally feel safe. No one said it directly, but it was everywhere. Arrival wasn't just a goal, it was a promise that made discomfort tolerable, and he realized how faithfully he had organized his entire life around that promise. Every difficult season justified by the idea that it was temporary. Every dissatisfaction postponed instead of examined. He wasn't unhappy. He was waiting to feel different, waiting to feel finished, waiting for permission to stop striving. And that waiting had followed him across every identity he'd worn: employee, artist, builder. The roles changed, but the posture stayed the same, always leaning forward, always slightly absent from the moment he was actually in. He saw now that arrival wasn't something he was failing to reach. It was something he had been chasing to avoid standing still. Because standing still meant facing the uncomfortable truth that life does not upgrade your internal world when your external world improves. It simply asks whether you're paying attention yet. That's when the thought surfaced, quietly but clearly. What if there is no arrival? What if there is no future version of yourself who finally gets to feel complete? What if every promise of then is just a way to avoid being present with now? The question didn't feel comforting. It felt destabilizing, because if there was no arrival waiting, then there was no moment coming to rescue him from himself. There was only this body, this mind, this day, and the unsettling realization that he had always been here, the same person, experiencing different circumstances but never becoming someone else along the way. Once the question appeared, it refused to stay abstract. If there was no arrival waiting, then what had all the chasing been for? He began to see the pattern everywhere, in corporate offices filled with people who had already achieved what they once dreamed about, yet spoke constantly about the next quarter, the next promotion, the next bonus. No one ever said, "I'm here now." They said, "Just a little further." The goalposts moved quietly, so quietly that no one noticed the movement itself, only the persistent feeling that something was still missing. In the art world, the same mechanism wore different clothes. Artists talked about freedom, the way executives talked about retirement, as something that would begin later, after recognition, after stability, after validation. They told themselves that once the work paid for itself, they'd finally be able to relax into it, that once they were seen, they'd feel secure, that once the struggle ended, life would begin. But the struggle didn't end. It only changed shape. He watched artists reach the milestones they had once begged for and immediately replace them with new ones. More followers, bigger platforms, better opportunities. The internal pressure never dissolved. It recalibrated. The mind simply found new reasons to stay restless. That's when it became obvious. The chase wasn't about the goal. It was about postponing presence. Arrival was a story people told themselves so they didn't have to fully inhabit the moment they were in. A promise that made dissatisfaction feel purposeful. A myth that turned constant striving into virtue. Corporate culture perfected this myth. Growth curves, performance reviews, endless projections that assumed fulfillment lived somewhere just beyond the present. But the art world absorbed the same logic without realizing it. Different metrics, same psychology, and the cost was always the same. Life was treated like a waiting room. What made this realization uncomfortable was how universal it was. He saw it in people who were objectively successful and still spoke as if their real life hadn't started yet. He heard it in the way conversations drifted towards future relief. When things slow down, when the pressure eases, when I finally get ahead. The language was different, but the posture was the same. Everyone leaning forward, everyone postponing themselves. And he recognized that posture in his own body, the slight tension, the constant mental rehearsal of what came next. He had been living as if his current experience was a rehearsal for a life that would eventually feel real. Even moments of peace were evaluated instead of lived. He didn't ask whether he was present. He asked whether the moment was useful, whether it meant something, whether it counted. Arrival had become a justification mechanism, a way to turn anxiety into motivation and dissatisfaction into discipline. But discipline without presence only sharpens restlessness. The more he chased the future, the more fragmented the present became. He realized then that arrival was never something he was failing to reach. It was something that kept him from noticing where he already was. And the longer he chased it, the easier it became to miss the only place life ever actually unfolds. He realized that he had been doing this to himself for years, organizing his identity around who he was becoming instead of who he was being, measuring his days by progress towards something imaginary instead of attention to what was actually happening. The danger wasn't ambition, it was disconnection. When you live for arrival, the present becomes an obstacle, something to endure rather than inhabit. Even joy feels provisional, only valuable insofar as it proves you're moving in the right direction. And yet every moment of his life had only ever been lived here. Not in the promotion, not in the sale, not in the recognition. Only now. That realization didn't feel inspiring. It felt disorienting. Because if fulfillment wasn't waiting at the end of the road, then there was no finish line to collapse into. No moment where effort could finally stop justifying itself. There was only participation, and participation demanded something far more difficult than striving: attention. The relief didn't come from giving up ambition, it came from seeing it clearly. Once he understood that there was no arrival waiting for him, something inside him stopped bracing for impact. He wasn't falling behind. He wasn't early. He wasn't late. He was simply where he was, the same place he had always been, experiencing different conditions. That realization changed the texture of his days. Work no longer felt like a bridge to a future self. It became something closer to conversation. Art stopped being a test he had to pass and became a practice he returned to. Structure stopped promising salvation and started offering support. This is the part people misunderstand. When you let go of arrival, you don't lose direction. You lose desperation. You stop asking, when will this finally feel worth it? And start asking, how do I participate honestly today? That shift doesn't make life easier. It makes it real. He saw how much suffering had come from treating the present as insufficient, from living as if his current experience was only valuable insofar as it led somewhere else. The moment he stopped doing that, the pressure to justify himself softened. Nothing external changed overnight. The work was still work. The uncertainty was still there, but it no longer carried the same weight, because it wasn't pointing toward an imagined finish line anymore. In the corporate world, people mistake progress for fulfillment. In the art world, they mistake freedom for fulfillment. Both are variations of the same misunderstanding. Fulfillment isn't something added to life once the conditions are right. It's something revealed when you stop postponing attention. He began to understand that you don't become a different person by achieving different things. You bring the same mind, the same fears, the same habits into every new circumstance. Achievement changes scenery, not identity. He noticed how rarely people are taught to rest inside their own lives. How often stillness is treated as laziness instead of orientation. From the beginning, movement is rewarded. Progress is praised. Waiting is framed as failure. So people keep moving, not because they know where they're going, but because stopping feels like falling behind. Arrival becomes a story that justifies motion, a finish line that gives rest permission to exist later instead of now. But later never arrives. The body keeps showing up in the present while the mind stays elsewhere, rehearsing futures that never quite materialize. He saw how this split created exhaustion that no achievement could resolve, how people reached milestones already preparing to leave them, how even joy felt conditional, something to be optimized or remembered instead of inhabited. The realization was simple and unsettling. Peace was never missing. Attention was. And attention had been postponed for a version of life that didn't exist. Once he saw that, he stopped asking life to deliver a different feeling and started allowing himself to meet the one already there. That's why arrival never delivers what it promises. There is no future version of you who finally gets to live. There is only the version of you who keeps waiting, or the version who stops. This wasn't a reason to stop working. It was a reason to stop rushing. Goals became tools instead of destinations. Structure became a container instead of a verdict. Success became something measured by sustainability rather than intensity. And most importantly, he stopped abandoning the present in service of an imagined future. This is where artists and corporate workers meet on the same ground. Both are taught to endure now for relief later. Both are rewarded for sacrificing presence in exchange for progress. Both are promised that once they reach a certain threshold, something fundamental will change. It never does. What changes is your relationship to what you're doing. When you stop chasing arrival, you don't become passive. You become precise. You stop leaking energy into imaginary futures and bring it back into the work itself. Attention replaces anxiety. Participation replaces performance. This is not a philosophy of giving up. It's a discipline of staying with the discomfort, staying with the work, staying with the truth that life is only ever happening where you are. And when that becomes clear, something quietly radical happens. You stop asking when life will begin because you realize, without drama, without revelation, that it never stops.